everybody for coming out. My name is John Schaaf. I'm an attorney here in Albany. One of my specialties, so to speak, is animal law, with a focus on liability and insurance concerns, and business protection. I gave everybody a handout here. If you didn't get one, they're up at the front, the check-in counter. Some are red, some are blue. They're all the same. Inside, there's a little bit of information about me, some brochures, biography, just explains a little bit about what I do, what exactly animal law is, what it isn't. There's also an article in there that is going to be pretty central to our discussion tonight that I wrote this April, discussing some cases. I wrote it for a legal journal, so it might be a little bit in legalese and not in layman's terms, but I'll explain it through the presentation tonight. I just included it there as a reference. There's also a copy of a pamphlet that the Committee on Animals in Law for the State Bar Association publishes. It's the most up-to-date pamphlet. It's got information about all sorts of laws and statutes that relate to animals of all types, not just horses. I also have a disclaimer in here. I don't see any clients in here tonight. I don't have an attorney-client relationship with any of you. Anything that I'm doing here tonight is not legal advice that you should take and apply to a situation of your own without consulting with a lawyer. So that's all that disclaimer says. Just want to tell everybody that the law is usually theoretical and things don't always apply to your situation the way they might to others. So we'll get started here. Did everybody get a packet? Was there enough of them? My secretary and I are working overtime today to get them all done. Before I start, what's the breakdown in the room? How many people, all horse people here tonight? Okay. How many people breed horses? Okay. How many run boarding facilities? Okay. How many do transport? Okay. Riding? Trail riding? Okay. How about hiring out for all of that? Okay. Nobody runs a...
We want to open a riding stable.
Okay. Theoretical. I'll try to zone in on those things. A few important things to start out. If everybody here is doing this as a business mostly, I'm assuming, there's 4 important people you need to have for your business. You need a good attorney, a good accountant, a good banker, and a good insurance agent. Not necessarily in that order, but you should have all 4, and all 4 of them should work well together and know each other. They should all know your goals, know about your business. They should come out, they can look at your facility, actually physically inspect the property and let you know what you should be doing. If you're missing one of those 4, you need to fill it up. Family farms, family businesses, these are the legal issues you're going to most often deal with. Most important, I think, is negligence, followed up by contracts, the 2 go together. You're going to have land sale issues, real estate, leases, as both property taxes and income. You're going to have insurance issues, which is going to go along with the negligence and the contracts. And eventually you're going to need an estate plan for the future of the business, and also a choice of a corporate entity to protect your business through a corporate plan. Insurance is your friend. It's going to be a central theme tonight. You must have insurance for your business. If you are just riding horses, owning horses, you need to have insurance for those horses. Kevin's going to explain all about that. I'm going to try not to step on his presentation. When you get your policy, if you're running a business, don't just rely on what your insurance agent says your policy may cover. Have an attorney review the policy, the actual policy, not just the declarations page. Make sure that policy conforms with the contracts you use in your business. Make sure it lines up with agreements that you have with vendors, customers, things of that nature. And make sure you have coverage for the activities you're actually doing. Don't just buy a blanket business policy. As Kevin's going to explain, it's not going to cover anything you're doing with horses, especially if you're doing trail riding and boarding and things of that nature. It's a wholly different animal from other types of businesses. No pun intended. Protecting your farm and your business. Most important thing we're going to see tonight, keep the gate locked. Okay, it's common sense. Keep the gate locked. Don't let the horse and the cow out. You're going to want to keep guests out of dangerous areas. It's all common sense stuff. You want a lot of warning signs. You want to keep safety guards in place on your equipment. You want to provide PPE. Who knows what PPE is?
Personal protective.
Very good. Personal protective equipment. Very importantly, if you're running a business operation of any type, you want to get a waiver from anyone that's riding a horse, is going to be in the barn, is going to handle the horse, is going to come on the property. You want them to sign that waiver. Waivers are a funny thing in New York. It's not going to hold up a lot of times, but to have one is a heck of a lot better than to not have one. With a minor, the waiver's not going to hold up. Have the minor sign it anyway, have the parent sign it. Certain activities, we'll talk about this later, waivers may not apply to. And you want to make sure for your waiver, don't just cut and paste one off the internet. It's probably not going to comply with New York law. I see it all the time. You'll get a waiver from North Carolina. It's going to be completely different and it's not going to help you. Make sure you have a lawyer draft the waiver. It doesn't cost much. Always use your common sense, especially when you have people near horses. If you have a particular horse that likes to kick, don't have somebody go around to the back of the horse. And everybody needs to accept the fact that eventually you're all going to be sued. The types of lawsuits you can face. Vet malpractice if you're a vet, property damage, premises liability, auto accident where the horse gets out of the barn. Bites are the most common we see, usually with dogs, but followed right up by horses. Negligent supervision, which could be your employees, could be parents, could be other people on the property. Failure to warn. Falls from horses is the second most common animal type litigation in the state. And horse kicks. So once you get sued, what do? You get something served on you by a process server. It's going to probably have a blue backer on it. It's going to be called a summons. It's going to summon you to court, and attached to that is going to be a complaint that is going to describe what it's alleged you did wrong. Hopefully you have insurance at this point, because the insurance is going to kick in and provide you with a lawyer. You have a relationship with a family attorney that can at least tell you what to do while the insurance is taking over your defense. Can they put in an answer for you? It's nice to have that phone that you can just pick up and call somebody and say, what can I do? You're going to be banned. Most importantly, did you plan for it? Everything's okay if you have coverage. The insurance company is going to do what we call accepting the tender, and they're going to provide you with a defense attorney at their cost. They're also going to indemnify you for any loss. That means if the judge or jury finds you negligent, they're going to pay the judgment. If the case needs to settle prior to trial, they'll pay that settlement. You're going to only be out of pocket your deductible. It's a handy thing to have. As part of this, you are going to be required to attend court proceedings. You're still going to be the defendant in the case. You're going to have to testify what's called a pretrial examination before trial or deposition. That's court testimony that's just taken in a room with the two attorneys and a stenographer. And possibly a trial if the case doesn't settle. So you still have to have some involvement, but you're not going to have financial involvement, which is the most important thing. If you don't have insurance, this is the bad part. You're going to have to hire me. I'm about $200 an hour. Some of us are more expensive. You're going to spend between $20,000 and $50,000 defending that lawsuit. You probably can't afford the settlement, and you certainly can't afford the judgment. So you and your family are going to be in a tight spot. Insurance definitely handy. As lawyers, we carry malpractice insurance. We carry quite a bit. It's going to take care of something if I make a mistake. I always tell people it's the responsible thing to do so that you can provide somebody with coverage for a loss that they've sustained, but it also protects you from paying on something the rest of your life. In previous life, I did a lot of risk management, liability protection for large technology companies, educational institutions, things like that. So kind of the circle that we use. You got to take control of the potential risk. Before you can control it, you got to identify it. In order to identify it, you have to analyze what's going on. You have to plan for things. Then you have to track what happens. In the middle, you got to communicate all that. If you have employees, you got to communicate with your employees, with your partners. If it's just you, you got to think about all these different points. So what kind of negligence can you have on the farm? Does everybody know what negligence is? It's something that you've done that's wrong, causes injury. It can be an employee accident, which is a different type of negligence. You can have an accident by a guest. Certainly can have death and dismemberment. Farming is probably one of the most dangerous professions that we have. Slips, trips, and falls. Less litigation on this these days. They're getting pretty tough to get to court on, but you still have them popping up all over the place. Then we have what's called strict liability. Strict liability sounds really bad, but it can have some benefits for you. Strict liability comes into play when you have an animal involved. Lawsuits for horses, the second most common in the state, next to dog bites for animals. Okay, throwing, trampling, biting, auto accidents. We see it all the time, especially up in this area. There's 4 judicial departments in New York State. There's the 4th department, which is everything west of Syracuse. There's the 3rd department that we're in, which is most of upstate. Then there's the 1st and 2nd departments downstate. Each of those different judicial departments handles these cases a little differently based upon the locale, so to speak. But the 4th and the 3rd department, we see a lot of animal-related negligence accidents, not so much down in the 1st and 2nd. So when you own an animal, you've got special legal responsibilities. That's called strict liability. Now, strict liability only holds you liable if you know that that animal had what we call a vicious propensity or a dangerous propensity. Okay? So they got to make the showing that you knew that, or that you reasonably knew it. So how can your horse be vicious? All right, horses aren't vicious, right? Only things like dogs are vicious. Maybe not. If the horse often gets out of its barn, gets in the fence, knows how to open gates, is clever, that might be a dangerous propensity, because you know that the horse gets out of the gates and likes to go out on the road and play with cars. If the horse has ever bitten anybody before, snaps to take a carrot or a piece of food. The particular way that an animal reacts to certain situations. If you've got a cow that is in a crowd, it gets spooked all the time. If you take that cow into a crowd, the cow gets spooked and kicks somebody, you had knowledge that the cow was going to do that, that's probably going to be a vicious propensity. If a horse has thrown a rider before, that's a vicious propensity. If a horse has kicked before, that's a vicious propensity. Now, the liability for that is imposed regardless